Owning a home is a major life achievement for many people. The trouble is, some people need a little push and a whole lot of help in reaching their dream. Maybe, just maybe, that push is on the way. The Ministry of Housing, CIBC, and One Oak Real Estate is bringing together realtors, bankers, lawyers, insurers, mortgage brokers, and financial planners to try and educate the public on every aspect of a real estate transaction. They want to help buyers understand how to become a real estate boss. Tonight, we discuss owning 23, obtaining a piece of the rock, and our guest, the Honourable Minister JoBeth Colby-Davis. He's the Minister of Transport and Housing. Matt Sweeting, CEO of One Oak Bahamas, and Ingrid Johnson, District Manager of First Caribbean International Bank. I'm your host, Jerome Sawyer. We'll see you on the other side of this break. So the project really pays itself back.
Correct.
They set up
at the conference, the school.
As a journalist, I always have to focus on the facts, and sometimes that means going to investigate for myself. On the Record, Thursdays at 8 p.m. right here on RTV.
And welcome back. Let's get right into what happened in news since we last spoke. Many knew him as a man of business. Eldred Ed Bethel served as a statesman for the country on several occasions. The giant of a man and veteran broadcaster was eulogized last Friday at a memorial service planned by Bethel himself, held in his honor at his church, St. Mary the Virgin Anglican Church. Those who gathered remembered him as a broadcaster par excellence and a distinguished diplomat. His work and what he did touching the lives of so many, myself included, he will certainly be remembered as a pioneer in broadcasting in the Bahamas. Well, 11 families were homeless after a weekend fire on Bimini destroyed 4 homes. Prime Minister Philip Davis traveling there a day later and assuring residents that the government will support their recovery efforts. Fortunately, no lives were lost. Kudos to the Prime Minister and team who went down immediately after, met with the residents, gave an assurance that important documents would be replaced very, very quickly. You see there some footage of the fire in Bimini. But of course, speaking to a larger issue, the lack of proper fire trucks and the ability to extinguish these blazes on family islands. We've got to do a better job of equipping our family islanders with the things that they need in an emergency. This, of course, going back to, a long-standing issue, not just on the shoulders of this government, but so many others. We just need the right infrastructure and equipment in place on our islands. Well, days after eviction notices were placed on over 200 homes in an Abaco shanty town, a group of residents have filed an appeal. The group is seeking a declaration that Supreme Court Justice Cheryl Grant Thompson's ruling, which allows the government to continue with the shantytown demolition, is illegal, void, and of no effect. So here we go again. This legal battle continues over these shantytowns. What will happen? Will it be another delay? Will the folks get to stay there a little longer? When are we going to address the main issue, which is a lack of housing and this immigration problem? We're going to talk a little bit about the housing issue later on in the show. Finally, a police officer still in hospital after a traffic stop ended with a suspect shooting him in the face early one morning this week. Well, police say they are waging a war on criminals. Well, that's good news. Glad to hear it. However, what concerns me again is the trend If you are bold enough to shoot a police officer in the face in a traffic stop, that tells me you have no respect or fear for the law. So while the police are waging war on the criminals, we've got a bigger problem on our hands as far as I can see it. Criminals having no fear of the police, no respect for the law. If you're going to try and kill a policeman, well, we got a whole other level. And just like that, this installment of Since We Last Spoke is done. On the Record returns with the Minister of Transport and Housing right after this break.
So the project really pays itself back.
Correct.
They set up
At the conference,
the school.
As a journalist, I always have to focus on the facts, and sometimes that means going to investigate for myself. On the Record, Thursdays at 8 p.m. right here on RTV.
You're watching On the Record. Our discussion tonight is owning 23, obtaining a piece of the rock. And joining me this segment is the Minister responsible for Transport and Housing, the Honourable JoBeth Colby-Davis. Welcome back to On the Record.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
I have to say, for the benefit of our audience, that the minister, when she was a senator, when she was in opposition, was one of the few guests who, whenever we called, she would show up. And so you have an honorary place.
Yes.
You have an
Thank
open
you.
invitation to always.
This is my show. I feel at home.
I'm happy to have you back. So let's dive right in now.
Yeah.
What is the government's position on housing? Let's start with that.
The government under the Davis administration understands the need, understands the cry, and understands that we've entered into an area, and globally, that there is a housing crisis. There is a great demand that people want to be homeowners. And so the position is to do what we can to make the investment, to give the opportunities for persons to enter into home ownership. And so we're working hard towards making that a possibility.
The Department of Housing has undergone a transformation in many ways under your leadership. What are some of the enhancements that you've made in that department and things that you are most proud of?
I'm most proud of, I got them in a new building. I'm most proud of
So
a
they
lot
now
of
have a new
things.
home.
They have a new home, exactly. And I think that's something we can celebrate because when I entered, it was structured in a way where it didn't seem like there was a lot of togetherness. And housing is so important that the people that serve the needs of our potential homeowners need to have a kind of blended relationship where the floor is busy with people working, passing documents. And we've restructured the units in housing to make it more relatable to the response that we need. So we created a new website, www.mothbahamas.com. And as you enter, they show you the different subdivisions that we're working on, the types of home, and then you're able to put through your application. It has a chat box. So my customer service agents, they take days when they manage the chat. It comes directly to their phone. So over the weekends, they're chatting with people, answering questions. So we created a customer service unit. We changed and restructured a lot of the ways we do business with and engage with the clientele so that they can understand we realize the importance and we're supporting them.
So tell me this, what is something that really keeps you up at night, that's nagging when it comes to this problem that we have of a lack of home ownership?
What's pulling at me is the large number of applications. We have over 3,000 applicants. And at night, I sit sometimes and I wonder if I can just get half of that number into home ownership, half of that number. And not just homeowners, but if I can make sure that my message is strong enough for them to understand. Home ownership, yes, is important, but financial responsibility is just as important. So while I can maybe make you a homeowner, you have to be able to keep yourself as a homeowner. So blended message. So that keeps me up at night because I want to make sure they don't just see the fun and the excitement and the pictures of handing keys over, but understand the responsibility they're taking on. It's coming with a lot of responsibility. You have to maintain your home. You have to maintain your yard. It's a family place. You're going to want to raise your family. So security is going to be important. And then just being able to say, I achieved this. I was able to pass it down to my kids. Those sort of things keep me up. If I can satisfy at least half of that, 3,000, I'll be good. And if I can make sure when they do become homeowners, they're able to sustain themselves in their home.
What are the challenges to getting to at least half of those applicants?
The challenges right now, in New Providence, the bulk of the applicants are from New Providence. We have a lot from various family islands, but the bulk is from New Providence. And the greatest challenge is the inventory of land. The inventory of land. So housing, what we normally do is we apply as well to the government, to Lands and Survey, Crown Land. We show them plots of land and we apply. And if it's Crown Land and they're able to give it to us, we create a subdivision. We have a few plots in our inventory, but we don't have a lot. And that's a great challenge. And so we have a search going on in New Providence with my unit. My tech guys are out and looking at property. And I'm just trying to find as much land. Financial is a challenge as well. Our structure we started with was the PPP model. That kind of helps the developer, comes with their funding, and so they're able to get going right away. There's really not much cash moving through housing because the developer is spending their funds and then the bank finances it. And so it's almost like we're just moving the key from one hand to the next to our homeowner who comes with the bank, who finances it. So the challenge for us sometimes is finances in being able to get some other projects going if we don't find a developer that has the funding.
I want to talk a little bit about some of the projects that you have currently ongoing in the ministry.
Yeah, so it was a lot of work getting the engine rolling. But we have quite a few of them. So we started with Pinecrest. That's in the South Beach subdivision, and that was the easiest one to start with because it was right on the road, which means that we just had to tie in the infrastructure. We didn't have to do a huge infrastructure project. So Pinecrest, we got 40 homes on that property, which was exciting for our homeowners. We still have some land there in our inventory. So we're going to expand to phase 2 of that, and I think we've surveyed that we may be able to get about 64 homes in the phase 2, but that one is going to require infrastructure, so the homes won't start just as fast as Pinecrest did. So Carmichael, that has about 56 foundations that are now going up for the walls and the roof, and that's exciting because when I came in, we were just trying to get the infrastructure completed. In Eleuthera, we have Ocean Hole. That has 7 homes already up with roofs on. So we're getting ready to complete those homes, and hopefully soon, I hope by the summer, we can start giving some keys away. They're moving pretty fast down there. We're still doing our survey to plot some more land in Ocean Hole so we can get more homes. Because when we did our housing fair, we had about over 100 young persons that applied and had good financial history, so they can be homeowners. We have Abaco. We have Central Pines. That was going to be my next question.
Central Pines. There were a lot of people who lost homes.
Oh my God. So we're working closely with DRA and social service because really it's housing. We just build new on housing land. We build new homes. But we have a lot of people that has damages to their homes, and some just doesn't have anywhere to go and doesn't have any finances to start right again and become a homeowner through a bank mortgaging. So housing has been building our homes there, and we're trying to get our homeowners in the homes now. So we're just dealing with the conveyance and signing over. Some of the land was under DRA, had to be transferred back to housing, so it really slowed down us getting them into the homes that are already completed. But we kind of settled a lot of that land issue now, so we should be getting them in their homes quite soon. And we have some homes that we purchased off of BMC that needed some work, so BMC completed Bahamas Mortgage Corporation. So they completed the renovations, and those homes are actually going to be put into our rent-to-own because that's some of the concerns we know that Abaconians are trying to become homeowners, but they're also trying to pick their lives back up. And so we know the rent-to-own may be a good product to launch there because persons are able to pay their rent, but they may not, because they lost so much, have the finances to go straight into a mortgage. And so, yeah, I think Grand Bahama, we just settled on some land that we found. And so hopefully we get the funding in place and we can start there.
I'd like you to elaborate a bit on your rent-to-own program for Family Islanders. It's a new program in many respects. But why is that a little more ideal, especially for Family Islanders?
It's okay for Family Islanders. It's ideal because when I did my first tour, when I became the Minister of Transport and Housing, we did our tours to the Family Islanders just to speak with some of the persons, and we launched like housing fairs so they can come out and then you can really engage. And a lot of them are self-employed. A lot of them are very good, successful businesses because tourism is booming on our Family Islands. And so they've been doing their thing. Their bank account has good savings, but they can't really, as you know, entrepreneurs, they can't really get mortgages. And so when you hear how much they're paying in rent, $1,200, $1,500, sometimes $2,000.
That's a mortgage
and
payment.
It's a mortgage payment. And they've been consistent, living the same place for 3, 4, 5 years. And so they're like, man, my business is doing good, but I just haven't been a business owner long enough for a bank to really justify. I have enough equity for them to give me this type of mortgage. And then some of them, they have lost homes. Some of them are just, you know, getting their lives on track, have a good professional, just got a good increase. And so we know that they want to be homeowners. They have the desire, but they may not be right where they are. And so the rent-to-own, how it works is we've just been kind of making sure we have the full structure in place. We've been working with the Attorney General Office to make sure the agreement is satisfied by them. And we intend for it to be a process that's kind of smooth. Set up an escrow account. We're looking at between Bahamas Mortgage Corp or BOB, and the escrow account will hold the funds for the person that is renting or leasing for a period. And they sign on their lease if they're going to be leasing towards becoming a homeowner in 18 months or 22 months. So based on what they sign, we take the price of that home and we divide how much the down payment would be. So whatever the percentage your banker says you have to have saved for your down payment, your closing costs, we calculate all of that. And then we spread it across the 18 months or the 22 months, right? And then we would add. So if we spread it, maybe if it's 5,000 or 10,000, that's not going to be a lot. Maybe 300 a month or 400. Then we're going to add a management fee because as the landlord, we still have to take care of the property while you're living there. So you'd have an admin fee that comes to housing to take care of the property, and then you'd have your escrow savings, and by 18 months, we'd expect you to be in a position. We'll work with you, speak to the bank, pay out what the bank requires, what your closing is, and then that home becomes yours.
You know, listening to you talk about all of these things, I'm learning a lot because one thing I've realized is that you're working across so many different ministries. You think government, but why you have to go and ask for land? I mean, but you know, and you think about, you know, you want to build homes, and you think about, well, if there's not electricity and water, that's not ideal. You've got to make sure that those things get put in.
Correct.
Well, you work across a lot of areas.
Yeah, and thankfully, I work with an amazing group of people who's just been a part of the public service for so many years. So they have taught me a lot. They're Bahamians that just love what they do. It's fulfilling. See, I was a part of building up this subdivision or helping this person become a homeowner. So we work really close. We talk quite often. They're energized just like me, so we're getting the job done.
Awesome, awesome, and great work. You know, I'm encouraged to hear that, you know, you are making progress and people are moving, you know, into their homes, because I'm sure, you know, it must give people a sense of pride and worth to turn out your own key. You know,
oh my God,
I can well imagine. I've seen some of the stories. Now, outside of the work that you're doing, I know that you're teaming up with a group, Owning 2023.
Yes,
I guess a public-private partnership. Tell us a little bit about your involvement with this.
Well, they are on the real estate side, right? So they're potentially helping Bahamians understand the value of real estate, becoming homeowners, or the steps to home ownership. And in a lot of cases, the government can't do it all. And so what's important is for us to build partnerships with the private sector and be a part of getting the message out to the public on these are the steps. If you do it outside of the government, it's still a possibility for you to be a homeowner, and these are some of the companies that's making that a reality for people, and it's young people that's a part of this company, and so you want to support even their vision of making the dream a reality for Bahamians. And so when they brought the seminar up to the Department of Housing, they advised us that they are trying to put together a seminar that just educates Bahamians on the steps to home ownership, whether it's through buying your land, your property first, and then constructing, or if it's just purchasing outright property that has a structure already there, teaching them about what the taxes are, how you get to exercise your exemptions as first-time homeowners, and just become a part of an industry that can say, I own a piece of the rock in my country. And so when they laid out the plan to me, it was a no-brainer. I wanted to join, I wanted to be a part, I wanted to share the message along with them, standing in partnership and agreement with what they're doing, and showing the public that maybe I may not be able to get all of you into homes, but these are reputable companies that are doing just as hard of a job as me and my team are to make sure home ownership becomes a reality. So I'm excited about that.
Minister, that is a great initiative and wonderful. And,
yes,
you know, I have to be fully transparent. The folks from Owning 23 are going to be up in another segment to talk, but I told them they can't come unless they bring you.
They told me.
So we want to thank you for coming on and doing the great work.
Thank you.
You know, home ownership is so important to giving people dignity and self-worth. And we talk about the Bahamian dream, but, you know, as we said, even in, you know, before we started, sometimes just leaving something for your kids and your grandkids. You know, so that's important. Keep up the great work. Always good to see you.
Good to see you.
We have lots more to talk about, so we have an open invitation for you to come back.
Me.
Yeah, we can.
You know how y'all do it.
Thank you so much, Minister. We really, really appreciate you. Stay with us. Just after our break, we're going to hear from you, the public, giving your thoughts on the government's assistance towards home ownership. Also, on the other side of the break, Matt Sweeting, CEO of One Oak Bahamas, and Ingrid Johnson, District Manager, First Caribbean International Bank. They're going to be here to continue this discussion on Owning 23, obtaining a piece of the rock. You're watching On the Record. Stay close. So the project really pays itself back.
Correct.
They set up
at the conference.
More the school.
As a journalist, I always have to focus on the facts, and sometimes that means going to investigate for myself. On the Record, Thursdays at 8 p.m. right here on RTV.
You're watching On the Record. Welcome back. And now for our man on the street, the Tweenies, with our Joshua Williams.
What they would have to do is probably look at the salary cap of the individuals. The price cost for the average home, we'll have to look at demographic area, and the way the salary cap is for the average individual that work. It's hard to afford.
I'm thinking that government does so much. I don't know what else government could do to help more people, you know, because in so many ways, government is helping in every way. So how much more they could do, I don't know. I don't know.
I was set a plan out, set a goal, because there's a lot of people living in this town homeless. They don't know where they can sleep at night. You understand? So the government needs to get serious and put their foot down and stop selling land to foreigners instead of giving it to your own people.
I think it's too hard to do the right thing. Go to school, it's too expensive. Get a home, it's too expensive. So I don't know what they could do. I don't have the answers, but I think something should be done.
Those same crown lands should be developed into low-cost homes. If not, give it to the young people coming up at a reasonable price, then give them the crown land. Let them start their own house.
Good there on Joshua Williams. You have the other thoughts on the public on home ownership. As promised, Matt Sweeting, CEO of One Oak Bahamas, and Inga Johnson, District Manager, First Caribbean International Bank. They are here joining us for this segment. Quite an array of answers and opinions to this question on home ownership. Something that really stood out, that's, someone said, it's hard. And it shouldn't really be that hard. Why is it so hard?
And I think, if I may, I can say that we see that, and I think at CIBC First Caribbean, we recognize it's hard to come up with that full down payment that is normally required, the 10 and the 20%. And so we've studied the market, and we understand that it is. So we do have the product of 95% financing, what really means it's 5% injection. And if we can, we help you with some closing costs. It is difficult, and I think the average Bahamian don't have that surplus of cash. And so it becomes difficult. So I think, first of all, they have to plan towards it. And I think understanding what's their income, what's their expenses, what is first and foremost for them. Home ownership is very big and perhaps the largest investment that any one individual will make. So understanding what are you qualified for. Come in and see someone at CIBC First Caribbean, and we can actually kind of walk you through the process. It's a one-stop shop.
People think and dream about it. But what are some of the things that you need to be doing almost immediately once you determine, okay, I'm going to move forward on this? I mean, like so many people, you don't even know where to begin.
Yeah. I think one of the conversations that we very hardly ever have is around financial literacy. We shared some comments together in our conversations. We were talking about some things that people don't often, a conversation that's hardly ever have is delayed gratification. Mm-hmm. And our generation, or my generation, is a generation where if we got the money in the bank account, we spending it. Mm-hmm. And so I think one of the things that we need to becomes a more popular and vocal conversation is financial literacy and delayed gratification. Because that's the element that we're seeing. We're going to be recognizing a number of buyers in an upcoming event, and at this event, what we see as a common theme among them is these people have discipline. And they have that ability to delay gratify.
So you open the door, and so I'm going to push it open a little further. It's called Owning 23, taking place this weekend. What's the reasoning behind organizing an event like this? What made you come together and determine we want to help people to get into their own homes?
Yeah. What's very clear to us, and again, our company and my career, I've predominantly worked with people that are local, that are under 500,000, more often than not first-time buyers. And every time I meet with them, there's often this confusion about where do I start? What's the next step? How do I do it? How much should I have? There's a lot of confusion and ignorance around the real estate process. This event is in an effort to try to help people understand that process. We know that real estate is going to be an integral part of their financial well-being, their general well-being. And so this event is in an effort to try to help that whole man become a little bit more sensible.
Inga, when you think about, and you're going to answer, but when you think about home ownership, people think that's a lifelong commitment to a mortgage, and that's frightening for a lot of people.
It is, and one of the things that you ought to think about is home ownership doesn't have to be that you're just shelling out funds. If you're young and up and coming and you want to look at long-term investments, which is building wealth, then you want to look at, should I then go into a triplex, a duplex, live in one, have supplemental income from the two that will help you repay that. And what that does is it propels you to then owning that dream home, future. Okay, so when we talk about financial literacy, do you really understand what is income, what is expenses, what is assets, what's liabilities? Liabilities is anything that's going to flow out of your pocket. Anything that's flowing back in is an asset. So if you have rental income that's flowing in, then you're going to feel, that you have some room and legway to go and invest into something else. And that's building wealth. They have to understand, and Matt said it, financial literacy is what we're lacking in this country. And I think we ought to do a little bit more. And I think partnering with Matt and looking at how we can educate the public a bit more. What is financial? What makes you wealthy? Just how you're thinking about your health, you ought to think about your financial health. How do you get there? Speak to somebody that can actually walk you down that road. What's your goals? How do you get there? And if you're not in the market or you're not able to acquire a home or a duplex at this time, then look at the property. If you're not purchasing property today and you're waiting for 2 years down the line, I can tell you the price is going to go up. And perhaps scarcity is the thing. You heard Minister say that.
Yeah.
You know, if you are not focused on what it is you want to do in the short term and even long term, then you're going to miss out. And so coming out to the event on Saturday is going to help a lot of people understand, how do you get there? How do you get there?
What are some of the common pitfalls that you see with folks who are either in the market for or thinking about home ownership? What are some of the biggest mistakes that you see outright that people make?
Yeah, certainly. You know, one of the things that we'll talk a lot about over this weekend is the fact that the team needs to be tight. And oftentimes the banker, the agent, and the attorney are working in a vacuum, right? And so what is the scariest pitfall is the fact that when you sign that sales agreement, a countdown starts to where what we call your money goes hard. It becomes forfeitable beyond that point, right? And so oftentimes when these professionals are working in a vacuum, the banker is not communicating with the attorney to say, hey, we're in that countdown, and if we do not notify them soon, then whether you get the financing or not, it's assumed you have the financing, and your money then becomes forfeitable if the bank calls you back and said, hey, we can't offer you the mortgage.
Wow.
That is one of the scariest ones. We've had that happen a couple of times.
Yeah, and I think that's important. You have to understand it from the beginning. And I think with CIBC, we walk you through it from the very beginning to you actually going into that home for the first time. So that is signing that sales agreement. What does it really mean? Is there a clause that protects you in there for forfeiting your deposit if you don't secure the financing? What is the time frame? What does that mean? Can you drag your feet to get your job letter and all the rest of those things? No, you can't. Everything has to happen in succession. If you don't have your appraisal, what does that tell you? You're actually losing time. And time is money. Right? Mm-hmm. So it's
especially in our business.
Exactly.
Now, we hear a lot of horror stories from people who try to buy or build homes, whether it's the unscrupulous contractor, unscrupulous lawyers, the inability to close. How do we safeguard ourselves in this process to ensure that we get what we're supposed to, we're able to honor our agreements, we're able to get into the home without, being out thousands of dollars or being set back years because of something, that didn't happen? So what are some of the safeguards that you need to put in place?
So as it relates to construction, one of the things, and you kind of hit the nail on the head there, so you do have some pitfalls where you have construction is a high risk facility. And not all banks would offer bridging loans or construction loans, we call it. And it's exactly that. It's very high risk. There's a lot of maintenance and administration behind the scenes. But what potential homeowners must do is when you choose a contractor, you must know of prior jobs that they've completed, have references, do your homework. Okay, the contract is between the client and the contractor, not the bank. Okay, so we want to make sure it's a licensed contractor. You've done your due diligence. You want to make sure that they're going to perhaps do take out the contractor's or risk insurance. Those kinds of things you're going to have to negotiate. Understand what it is you're going to be undertaking. Most persons like turnkey, and that is you have a company build it right out, and then I purchase it.
Show up with the furniture.
And we do that as well. So It's all about understanding what it is that you want to do. Do you want to just purchase a home that's already built? Do you want to purchase a new home that's being built? We call that turnkey, and you pay after it's completed? Or do you want to go through, I want to design my own home. I want to start from foundation up. Understand that it comes
step by step. Yeah, I want this tree, that pool, that wall.
Absolutely. It comes with a little bit of patience. You need patience, and you have to do your homework for that.
Matt, in terms of, what are some of the good areas that from a real estate perspective that people should be looking at if they're looking to, buy a piece of property or even purchase a home or construct?
Mm-hmm. Well, over this last decade, we've seen a tremendous interest in gated communities, right? If people are going to invest in the biggest investment of their life, security is going to be a major part of that. And so we've seen tremendous interest there. West is still dominating in terms of interest. Mm-hmm. People, for some reason, the East just has a stigma attached to it in terms of traffic.
I won't say anything on that. I live in the West.
and so the East, the West, gated communities is where we've seen considerable interest, and people are still driving. There's considerable demand. As the minister commented earlier, we've seen in the banking sector and the real estate sector tremendous demand for people looking for housing.
Yeah. Interesting. So this weekend, for those who don't know, I know we're here, to talk about the entire market and the entire issue. But this weekend, like, what do you really hope to achieve with this event that you're pulling off, and why is it so important at this point?
Yeah. One of the things that I think is very important, and again, there were a couple of new changes or new listings, new changes in the market that's indicative. And this is what I'm going to be presenting on: buy now or rent forever. And it's such a scary thing, a scary prospect for the young professional, because we got such big ambitions. But there's a strong argument to be made that if we do not act quickly, the market has changed. We are going to go through a case study on a property that has increased upwards of 75% in price over 8 years.
Wow.
If we stay on a similar trajectory, that means in the next couple of years you won't be able to afford.
They're really going to be outside of the reach of so many, so many behemoths. That's frightening.
Yeah.
And I think at the event on Saturday, and just so you all know, it's Saturday 3 to 6 at the New Providence Community Center, Blake Road. It's important for you to know what you're qualified for, and that's where CIBC come in. So we actually will run your numbers. We call it crunching numbers, and then we tell you what you are in the market for. Then you know exactly what you're going to go to Matt and team and say, this is what I'm looking at. This is my spend. And Matt's job is going to be to place you, perhaps give you some options, and there you go.
So you can't have chicken money, but show up looking for steak.
Exactly. So we'll help you kind of understand what it is that you're qualified for. And if you're not ready, then one of the things is we kind of help you. How do you get there?
Right. Because everybody's not ready. That's the reality. Some people just don't have it, but you have that dream. Finally, before you go, the minister was here earlier talking about her role. Why was it important for you to get the ministry involved, which is a little different in terms of what they do, and how they provide that housing, but why was it important for you all to get the minister involved in this?
Yeah, I think people are very, very curious about how the government plays a role in the future of housing, right? How is that going to impact young professionals? Over the last couple of years, the government has been attempting to make considerable outreach in this, what we call a marginalized demographic. These young professionals, how are they going to own homes, right? And so being able to hear the government's perspective, similar to the questions you asked, the general public wants to know as well. What's the government's position on housing? And so we wanted to bring the authority on that topic to be able to speak to the people. She's going to be presenting on the importance of home ownership in a changing world. And again, the real message is here, you have to get your ducks in a row so that you could own a piece of rock or not, or ever.
Folks, we're out of time, but I just want to say how important it is for us to continue to build that public-private partnership. We heard there in one of the clips just prior to the segment, the government can't do it all by itself. It's going to take a community effort, the public and the private. And I want to commend you for doing that, because often private institutions get together and they talk to each other, and the government's over here on another, on another track. So I congratulate you for having the foresight to do that. I hope it's a great event. And I just want to encourage people, as you said, come with a plan, come with a dream, and even if you can't afford it today, at least you're working towards it for tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Good stuff.
Absolutely.
So thank you very much, Matt Sweeting and Inga Johnson. It was our pleasure hosting you here on The Record. You're always invited back, just so you know that, all right? Owning 2023. You're watching On The Record. Stay tuned. What's trending on social media right after this break? Project really pays itself back.
Correct.
They set up
at the conference.
The school.
As a journalist, I always have to focus on the facts, and sometimes that means going to investigate for myself. On The Record, Thursdays at 8 p.m. right here on RTV.
And we're back. Time now to see what's trending on social media. First up, Desto Marea commenting on the Nashville mass shooting, saying this is absolutely horrible and gut-wrenching to watch. No child of any age should have to go through this. Security should definitely be put into effect at all school levels because events like this are happening way too often in America. I mean, how many times do we have to sit through these gruesome stories of what's happening with these school shootings? Fortunately, we have not had any incidents in the Bahamas, but you know, careful is never too careful, as we remember a few weeks ago in Grand Bahama. School administrators stepped in with just simply a threat. Now, Larry Foreman, a visitor here to the Bahamas, posts a video of the Women's March this past Sunday. His hashtag reads, "Women rule the world." Some men may have a different opinion, but good for you. It's good to see when our tourists come and are able to experience what we're doing on a national level. It was a great march, great effort. Congratulations to the Independent Secretariat. And I was happy to see some of our visitors getting in on the action. I took note of his pink hat there. I see you, Larry. I see what you're doing. All right. A former colleague, Shanae Smith, she was our first social media practitioner here. She posted that several images of a sailboat under construction, and she says, "A huge part of my childhood was watching my daddy build sailboats from scratch. I didn't realize growing up how rare and integral to Bahamian culture this talent is, but he just finished his most recent boat, and I had to show it to y'all. I had to show y'all how talented he is." Shanae, you're quite right. This is an integral part of who we are and what we do. I just wish more Bahamians would tell their stories, tell their family stories. What did mom and dad and grandma and grandpa do? But again, and sailing and sailboat making, I'm worried though. I wonder whether it's a dying art form. Hopefully we can keep these things going for generations and generations. All right. After retweeting a post from OPM's Director of Communication, Latrey Ramming, on the groundbreaking for an airport on Cat Island, Maxwell Smart says he loves to see positivity about the family islands. You are so right. Great news. I am ecstatic about the airport coming to Cat Island. Cat Island, one of my favorite places to visit. Notice I said Cat Island. You got to say it like that. All right. So hopefully we can see more of these airports. This is going to be a plush airport if and when it comes. The people of Cat Island have been wanting it for a long time, and a lot of people are going there now. You know, record-breaking tourist arrivals as well. So good for Cat Island. Good for the PM. That's its constituency. Look after your people. All right, Sadie tweets, "The TikTok ban is actually so scary for most creatives, self-employed people. TikTok is the #1 place currently to build a following and market yourself or your product. And if it gets banned, it's going to put so many people out of a job." This was really sobering. Because for me and so many others, TikTok is a place of entertainment, but a lot of people use it for work. They use it to promote their business, to get clients, and a great insight into what this ban could really mean. How is it going to affect your customer base? Will you be able to reach people? Something very, very sobering to think about. Obviously, we're going to lose some entertainment if it happens, but people really use it, as a means to promote business. So very, very sobering thought there about the possible future of TikTok. Now, Nick, who clearly had something sweet on his mind, tweeted a question. He was to engage us to choose between pineapple or coconut tart. I know y'all always saying I have something up here about food, right? It's not me. I don't choose these things, but I do endorse them. So, between pineapple and coconut tart, I understand the coconut tart one. Yeah. All right. So I love these kinds of things because we're out there promoting Bahamian culture and Bahamian food, and which is more popular, pineapple or coconut? Yeah, I can see why the coconut one, but they both look delicious. Thank you for that. Always engaging, always entertaining. Thank you to our Eudacia Taylor for bringing this on. Eudacia Taylor Stevens for always bringing this good stuff to us. Well, that's a wrap on The Record tonight. Special thanks to our guest, Minister of Transport and Housing, the Honorable JoBeth Colby Davis. Always good to have her in studio, as well as Matt Sweeting, One Oak, and Ingrid Johnson of First Caribbean International Bank. And thank you to you, our viewers, for staying with us tonight. Make sure you join us next week for another topic that directly affects the lives of Bahamians. Until then, I'm Jerome Sawyer. We'll see you again soon.